When Morgan was little, maybe 9 or 10, he'd sit on the edge of the dock with his legs swinging and yell my name. Missy. Like the lake would echo it back if it loved him enough. I'd be in the kitchen, barefoot on the cold tile, wiping my hands on a dish towel as his voice pierced the morning stillness. His mother, Mara, would shrug from the other room. He's obsessed with the lake. And probably with your pancakes, she'd say. I used to think that was all it was. The novelty of an aunt who could make pancakes shaped like dinosaurs and tie bandanas in her hair, like some wayward scout troop leader. He'd always come up on the weekends when Mara needed time. Morgan was her second child by her second husband, and neither of them stuck long enough to watch him grow up. I, on the other hand, had stuck around too long. First with my ex-husband, then in the same town, then in this house. The one with the view of the water and the echoing silence that somehow never scared me until Morgan's laughter stopped ringing through it. He's 20 now, and everything about him has changed, except the way he looks at me. He still shows up on weekends, now in a beat-up truck with the windows down and the scent of cedar clinging to his flannel. He wears boots like they've lived other lives. His voice is lower, but still carries that undercurrent of mischief he never outgrew. The first time I noticed the difference was last spring. It was just after my ex, Vernon, had sent the divorce finalization papers with a half-hearted note tucked between legal jargon. Hope we can stay friends. As if we ever were. I was curled up on the porch swing, nursing a glass of bourbon, when Morgan pulled up, music thumping faintly from his speakers. He sat beside me without a word. Just leaned back, pulled his hat down over his eyes, and let the silence settle. Then he said, "You ever think about just starting over? Like, packing one bag, burning your whole life down, and disappearing?" I turned my head, studying the boy who wasn't a boy anymore. No, but sometimes I wonder what it would take to feel something again. His eyes lifted. He looked at me like I was a book he'd read once and never returned to the library. Maybe it takes being seen. I should have changed the subject. Laughed. Dismissed it. But instead, I said, maybe. Since then, the air has been different when he's around. Like a storm waiting behind summer clouds. 2 weekends ago, he showed up without warning. Said he'd been driving aimlessly and thought of the lake. Thought of me. He carried a bottle of wine and a smirk. Didn't bring pancakes, he teased, but figured you could handle dessert. We made dinner. Talked about books. Politics. How quiet the town had gotten. Then, somewhere between his second glass and the sound of the loons calling across the water, he looked at me, really looked at me, and said, "You know, Missy, sometimes I think I made a mistake growing up." I tilted my head. "Why?" "Because you stopped holding my hand." I didn't reply. I couldn't. Because something about the way he said it struck deeper than I wanted to admit. The next morning, I found him on the dock again, just like when he was small, except now his back was broad and his hair curled at the nape of his neck. He turned when he heard my footsteps. Smiled. But the smile didn't reach his eyes. "You ever think," he said slowly, "that we're only given one life, and it's criminal how much of it we spend pretending?" "Pretending what?" I asked. He shrugged. "That we're okay. That we don't want things we shouldn't." I didn't answer. Because I knew what he meant. And that terrified me. That evening, he stayed later than usual. I poured us each a glass of wine and lit the citronella candles on the porch. He leaned against the railing, watching the water like it owed him something. Then he said softly, "You always made me feel safe." Even before I understood why. My heart pounded. I wanted to tell him he was confusing nostalgia with affection. That the past was a trick mirror. But my lips wouldn't form the lie. Instead, I whispered, "You were the only one who ever listened." He stepped closer. Too close. "Missy." I closed my eyes. Just for a moment. Just to hear how his voice sounded wrapped around my name like that. I pulled away before he could do anything more. "You should go." He didn't argue. Didn't apologize. Just nodded and left. But I haven't stopped hearing that voice since. The days after Morgan left were an echo chamber. I went about my routine. Tea in the morning, gardening until the sun made it unbearable. Evenings spent rereading novels I used to adore, but now couldn't focus on. The silence was louder after him. I told myself I'd imagined it. That he hadn't meant it. That I was projecting. Midlife, lonely, unraveling just enough to blur lines that should never be crossed. But then the text started. "Morgan, just saw a crow dive bomb a squirrel. Thought of you." "Me? Should I be flattered?" "Morgan, you should be concerned. Crows are loyal. They remember faces. You've got that kind of memory, too." "Me? You're comparing me to a vengeful bird? Morgan, I'm saying you see everything. Always did. That one made my breath catch. I didn't respond. But the next day, he sent a photo, an old one, faded, creased, me holding a tray of lemon bars, laughing. Morgan was maybe 11 in the corner of the frame, eyes locked on me like I was the sun, and he was already learning how to burn. Morgan, found this in my glove box. Guess I've been carrying it around for years. I stared at it longer than I should have. The next weekend, he came again. No warning. Just showed up with a six-pack and a loaf of sourdough like it was the most natural thing in the world. He let himself in like always. Hope you've got cheese, he said with a grin, tossing his keys in the bowl by the door. Morgan, I started, my voice tight with everything I couldn't say. He held up a hand. Don't worry. I'm not here to say anything you don't want to hear. I just missed the doc. And your coffee. And maybe your company. So we didn't talk about it. Not directly. We fell into easy conversation about work, about books, about how small towns always feel bigger until you grow up inside one. Later, on the porch, he played me a song on his phone. Something raw and aching. Lyrics about wanting someone you were never meant to want. He didn't look at me while it played. He just sat still, letting the song speak. When it ended, the silence settled like mist. Then he said, I wrote that. Sort of. I looked at him then. Sort of. He turned, met my eyes without flinching. You're in it. Every line. I stood too fast. Morgan, this can't go anywhere. I know. I faltered. You've known me since you were a child. And you've known me as more than that for a while now. Haven't you? I didn't answer. I couldn't. He stood too, but didn't reach for me. Tell me to stop coming. Tell me you don't feel it, and I'll go. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. He nodded, reading the silence. I'm not trying to ruin anything, he said. I just want to be honest. You taught me that. I should have told him to leave. Instead, I whispered, stay for dinner. We ate in near silence, save for the occasional scrape of a fork. It was absurd, how charged the air felt over roasted vegetables and grilled trout. We didn't speak of anything heavier than summer storms and the cricket plague of '09. After the dishes were done, he leaned against the sink, arms crossed. You look tired. Maybe I am. You've been carrying a weight no one else sees. You always do. His words hit too close. I was happy once, I said. Maybe not in the way people define it, but I had peace. Then life got messy. And I got tired. And I stayed tired. I want to be the reason you're not tired anymore. His words were a whisper. So quiet, I almost pretended I didn't hear. But I did. I heard them in my bones. That night, after he left, I couldn't sleep. I walked the halls, touched the walls like they might offer advice, stared out at the lake like it might tell me who I was before all this. Then the doorbell rang. It was close to midnight. Morgan. He looked like he hadn't planned it, like he'd turned the car around halfway home. I forgot something, he said. What? He stepped forward. And slowly, very slowly, he leaned in and rested his forehead against mine. Your forgiveness, he whispered. I let my eyes close. I'm not mad at you, I said. I'm mad at myself. For not stopping this. For not wanting to. I'll go, he said, pulling back. I didn't answer. Didn't move. Because part of me wanted him to stay. And that part was growing louder. I tried to make the days feel ordinary again. I cleaned out the attic, alphabetized the spice rack, started a journal I knew I'd abandoned by the third entry. Anything to avoid what had taken root. But memory isn't something you can dust off and box up. It lingers, especially in the corners of the house where he sat, laughed, breathed. Morgan hadn't come back since the night he said he'd forgotten something. He hadn't texted either. And yet I found myself pausing in doorways, checking my phone more often, standing on the porch at sunset as if expecting headlights to pierce the dusk. Then came the dinner party. An old friend from my teaching days, May, was back in town and eager to gather the survivors of our high school's overworked English department. I wore the blue dress I hadn't touched in years, applied lipstick like I remembered how, and walked into that room full of laughter and ghosts with a smile pasted on. He was there. I didn't know May had invited Morgan. He stood in the kitchen, drink in hand, talking to someone I didn't recognize. His hair was longer. There was stubble along his jaw. He looked like summer and danger, and the past I'd been trying to pretend hadn't spilled into my future. His eyes met mine across the room. And that's when I knew. I was in trouble. Later, when the music mellowed and the older guests filtered toward the couches with pie and coffee, He found me standing alone near the screen door, sipping flat lemonade. "Hi," he said, voice low enough not to carry. "You look well," I replied, which was safer than the truth. "You look like you haven't been sleeping." "I haven't," I admitted. He leaned against the wall beside me. "I've been thinking about that night." "So have I." Silence stretched between us like a drawn curtain. "I meant what I said, Missy," he murmured. "I know. And I didn't come here tonight to pressure you. I didn't even know you'd be here. But seeing you now..." He shook his head, eyes glinting with something more than longing, resolve. "You make me believe it's possible to want someone without shame." I swallowed hard. "Then you've never lived in a small town long enough." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Is it really about the town? Or is it about the names we've worn for so long that we've forgotten how to be anything else?" I didn't answer, because I didn't know how to explain that it wasn't just what people would think. It was what I thought of myself. The guilt was louder than the ache. That night, when I returned home, I found a letter tucked inside my screen door. His handwriting. Slanted. Unmistakable. "Missy, I'm not asking you to change your life. I just want you to know that you changed mine. When I was a boy, you were the first person who ever made me feel heard. And now, as a man, you're the only one who makes me feel seen. I'm not expecting anything. Not a promise. Not a confession. But if you ever need a moment that belongs to no one else, you know where to find me." I didn't sleep. I reread the letter 10 times. I carried it into the kitchen, set it down, picked it back up. In the morning, I drove. No destination. Just the hum of tires on asphalt and the low growl of indecision clawing at my ribs. Eventually, I ended up on the far side of the lake. The forgotten side, where the air smelled of pine and old campfires, and the world felt more honest. I saw his truck before I saw him. He was by the water, skipping stones, like some echo of the past had conjured him. He didn't turn when I approached. "Nice morning," he said. I nodded, unsure whether to speak. "I wasn't sure you'd come." Neither was I. The wind rustled the trees. A bird called overhead. He turned to me, eyes softer than they had any right to be. "Missy, I need you to tell me to stop if this is going to ruin you." I opened my mouth, but the lie wouldn't come. So I told the truth. "I've already ruined myself a little. Every time I push this down, it cracks something in me." His face changed, like the clouds had parted somewhere behind his eyes. Then I said it, the thing I hadn't dared before. "But I don't want to feel numb anymore." He stepped closer, not touching, just standing in the space where the world might end and begin again. I placed my hand on his chest, over his heart. "I don't know where this goes," I whispered. "Then let's not plan it. Let's just be in it." He leaned forward, but didn't kiss me. Instead, he pressed his forehead to mine. And in that quiet, I felt everything shift. The drive back was silent. Not in a painful way. Not even awkward. It was the kind of silence you earned after everything had already been said without needing to be spoken aloud. Morgan kept one hand on the wheel, the other resting just close enough that if I shifted my fingers an inch, I could touch him. I didn't. Not yet. Back at my house, the porch light flickered on as we pulled in. The same light that had burned through years of routine, of dinners reheated, of books half-read, of nights spent wondering when my life had become so still. He killed the engine but didn't move. I stared ahead, hands in my lap. "Do you ever wish you didn't feel what you feel?" His voice was steady. "Sometimes. But mostly, I'm just glad I feel anything at all." That struck deeper than he knew. Inside, I poured tea for both of us. I offered it like a peace treaty, though there was no war between us. Just gravity. He sat across from me at the kitchen table. The same table where I'd once helped him with math homework. Where I'd scolded him for dropping spaghetti sauce on his shirt. Where he'd made me laugh so hard I'd cried over a game of Scrabble. But tonight he didn't joke. He just watched me. "I'm leaving soon," he said. I looked up. "Where?" "Out west. Oregon, maybe. A friend's offered me work. Woodworking, actually. The kind of job that doesn't care what degree you don't have." "When?" I asked, my throat suddenly dry. 2 weeks. Something inside me folded in on itself. A small, sharp thing, like paper creasing before it tears. "I guess that makes everything simpler," I said. "Does it?" "No." He leaned forward, resting his forearms on the table. "I'm not telling you because I want to leave. I'm telling you because I need to know. Would it matter if I stayed?" My eyes burned. I didn't speak. Because every part of me was at war. the woman who had lived her life according to the rules, and the woman who had quietly begun to question who made them. That night, after he left, I stood in the dark of the hallway and stared at my reflection in the mirror. My hair was tied back, my sweater loose. Nothing remarkable about the woman looking back, except the fire in her eyes. I didn't sleep, and the next morning I called Mara. We hadn't spoken in weeks. Not since the last time Morgan came to stay, and she asked, half laughing, "He still idolizes you, doesn't he?" She answered groggily, voice thick with sleep. "Missy, I just wanted to hear your voice." A pause. "Everything okay?" "I don't know." Another pause. But this one was kinder. "Want to come by?" she offered. I declined. I hung up, then sat on the edge of my bed, trying to decide who I was allowed to be. Later that day, I saw him again. He was standing in the orchard down the road. His place, he always called it, even though it belonged to no one anymore. I didn't call out. I just walked toward him. He heard my steps and turned, a question in his eyes. I didn't answer with words. I took his face in my hands and kissed him. No hesitation this time. No lines to worry about. Only two people on the edge of something sacred. It wasn't wild or frantic. It was still, real. When we pulled apart, he rested his hand against my jaw, thumb brushing the place just beneath my ear. "I'll stay," he whispered. "I didn't ask you to. You didn't have to." 2 weeks passed. He didn't leave. He came by in the mornings to help in the garden. Stayed through evenings where we shared dinners in low candlelight. Nothing loud. Nothing dramatic. Just presence. Emily came by once, Mara's daughter, and asked, "Why does Morgan hang out with you so much, Missy?" I smiled. "He likes my cooking." She didn't question it, but I saw the doubt in her eyes. Word got around eventually. In towns like ours, it always does. Whispers floated through the bakery, the post office, even church pews. They never said my name outright, but I felt it in the way they glanced. The way they paused before asking how I was. And yet, I wasn't ashamed. I didn't hide. I walked with my head up, Morgan sometimes a step behind me, like he always had been, and now finally beside me. One evening, we sat on the dock again. The same one he'd leapt off as a boy. The sun slipped beneath the lake's edge, the sky bleeding pink and gold. He looked at me, that quiet kind of look he'd always had. Except this time, I looked back without flinching. "Still think this is madness?" he asked. "No," I said. "Why not?" I paused. "Because it's not madness if it brings you back to life." He nodded slowly. We sat that way until the stars began to come out. No words, just the certainty of a moment that didn't need permission from the world to exist. I don't know what will be a year from now. Maybe we'll leave this town behind. Maybe we'll start again, somewhere no one knows the names we used to carry. Or maybe we'll stay. Let them talk. Because love, real love, isn't defined by age or history or what people whisper when you're not in the room. It's defined by moments like this, where two people see each other fully and decide to stay. Morgan once said I made him feel seen. But the truth is, he made me visible to myself again. And I will never, never be invisible again.